You started on an Su-33, press escape and change slot to an Su-35. You are now on a Su-35 already in flight. Wait a moment for the full initialization. This mission will attempt to teach the basics of the radar simulated for the Su-35 on DCS. Please note that this simulation is not a faithful reproduction of the real NO-35 fitted to the Su-35, which is an advanced passive electronically scanner array radar system, but a simplified simulation that employs as a basis the old radar implemented by ED for the Su-33. We will cover the following aspects: a brief radar description, beyond visual range radar modes, scan, STT and TWS modes. The mission is currently paused, to have enough time to describe the different radar capabilities and its various controls. Press spacebar to begin. As simulated on DCS, the radar information is accessed by switching the aircraft's computer to its beyond visual range mode, BVR. Its default control binding is the 2 key, press it now. Alternatively, you can also press the BB button on the up-front control panel, UFCP. Press spacebar to continue the training. To avoid broadcasting your presence to nearby opponents, the radar is normally kept off or on silent mode using the highlighted switch, or the I binding. Click the radar switch up to turn the radar on. The HUD will display ILL to denote that the radar is now emitting. The aircraft computer is now on Beyond Visual Range Combat Mode, BVR, and the aircraft radar is on and emitting. On BVR, the radar can operate in one of 3 radar modes. Scan mode, SCN, is used to scan for aerial contacts in front of your aircraft. Single Target Track, STT, on this mode the radar focuses on a single contact, providing the detailed information that a missile needs to reach its target after being launched. On this mode the information on other contacts will disappear from the radar display. Track While Scan, TWS, this mode can track a particular target while still being able to monitor other contacts. However, this mode turns off automatically when there are jammers around. Further, it switches to STT automatically at 85% of the calculated maximum range of the selected weapon. Press spacebar to continue. Radar information will appear both on the HUD, overimposed on the normal HUD symbology, and also on the right MFD. Both show a top-down view of the airspace in front of the nose. Your aircraft position is on the center of the bottom border, facing straight ahead towards the upper border. The figure at left shows the radar symbology for the HUD when on BVR scan mode. The display range of the radar can be adjusted using the bindings shown below. Let's try them now. On the HUD, the radar allows 7 ranges: 5, 10, 25, 50, 100, 200 or 500 kilometers, all multiples of 5 to match the marks of the HUD scale. Note that this is just a display zoom setting and it does not mean that the radar can actually detect targets at 500 kilometers. Also note that any radar contact that is within the scan zone will be shown on the top of the display if the range setting is too short. Press spacebar to continue. On the right multifunction display, the radar can display 6 ranges: 16, 32, 80, 160, 320, and 1,280 kilometers. Unlike the HUD, on the MFD radar contacts can be hidden if they are farther away than the range setting. Select a zoom setting that allows you to see the radar contact that is in front of us on both the HUD and on the MFD. 100 kilometers on the HUD, which is 320 kilometers on the MFD. Good, the radar zoom is now 100 kilometers on the HUD, and 320 on the MFD. Press spacebar to continue. As modeled on DCS, the aircraft radar scans the airspace in front of us using a pattern that roughly resembles a pie slice, covering an arc of 60 degrees on the horizontal plane, and with a height or elevation of 10 degrees. This scan pattern can be slewed discretely through 3 azimuth positions, left, center, or right, allowing you to manually scan an arc of up to 120 degrees in front of the aircraft. An azimuth coverage bar is displayed at the bottom of the HUD and at the top of the radar display on the MFD, to reflect which is the current azimuth position. You can select the azimuth with the radar bindings shown below. Let's practice these bindings. We will now spawn 5 contacts ahead of us covering a total azimuth of 60 degrees towards our right. Wait a moment. Okay, the practice contacts have been spawned ahead of us and you should be able to see at least the 2 leftmost contacts both on the HUD and on the MFD radar display. Press spacebar to continue the practice. Now use the skin zone right binding to have the radar cover the zone from 0 to 60 degrees, instead of the prior -30 to +30 degrees. Good, now you should be able to see all the contacts, at the expense of not covering the airspace that is on our left. The figure on the left shows the real location of these contacts. Try the skin zone left and right bindings and observe the blue arc marker move on the right MFD to reflect the zone you are currently scanning. On the bottom of the HUD, a line segment indicates the same thing. Press spacebar to continue. On the HUD, contacts are displayed as a series of dots or colons, depending on if they are friendly or foes. The quantity of these symbols illustrates the size of the contact. Fighters show up as 2 symbols, larger aircraft as 3, while the biggest aircraft show up as 4 symbols. On the radar display of the MFD, you can gather more information about the contacts like their heading vector, altitude, and the reporting source. Friendlies are denoted with circles, of large, medium or small size according to their actual size. Enemy contacts are shown with chevrons, with their points oriented along their headings. If the chevrons are closed, to form a triangle, it means the target was acquired by our own radar, instead of being relayed from a wingman or AWACS via data link. Press spacebar to continue. Just as with the azimuth, the radar skin pattern can be slewed up or down, to detect targets that are higher or lower than the standard 10 degrees in front of us. An elevation scale bar is displayed on the right side of both the HUD and the radar display on the MFD. You can select the radar elevation setting with the radar bindings shown below. Press spacebar to continue. Let's practice these bindings. We will now spawn 8 contacts ahead of us, all at different altitudes from 1 to 8,000 meters, while we are at an altitude of 6,000. For this practice, make sure to return the horizontal skin zone to its center position. Okay, the practice contacts have spawned ahead of us and you should be able to see some of them on the HUD and radar display. Note that these are not friendly contacts, so they are designated with dots rather than colons. Also, the single dot use tells us that the detected aircraft are of small size. Employ the skin zone up and down bindings to try to detect all 8 contacts in front of us. Good, keep using these bindings to get used to them. Press spacebar to continue the training. The radar cursor designator is a rectangle displayed on the HUD, which can be slewed by the pilot and employed to designate a contact as a target. When a contact is designated in this way, the radar will then change mode to single target track, STT, or track while scan, TWS. To slew the radar cursor, employ the control bindings shown below, which can be assigned to a HOTAS to operate them easily. Let's practice these bindings. We will now spawn a couple of large contacts ahead of us. For this practice, make sure to return the elevation back to its 0 center position, as the contacts are more or less at our same altitude. Okay, the practice contacts have spawned ahead of us and you should be able to see both on the HUD and on the radar display. Employ the radar cursor designator to move the HUD cursor up, down, left, or right. Try to place it over either of the contacts. Press spacebar once you feel confident that you can move the cursor over either of the contacts. So far we have seen just how to move the radar cursor. For designating a contact as a target we need to learn 2 more bindings. Target lock will designate the target and then enter into the STT radar mode, where you can get close into firing range and then launch a missile to it. The target radar warning receiver, RWR, will alert its pilot that you have it radar locked. Target lock TWS instead will designate the target and then enter into the TWS radar mode, where your radar can still track other contacts. On TWS the target RWR will not notice that it's radar locked. Both the STT and TWS radar modes will be covered in detail on a more advanced radar training mission. For now, move the radar cursor over any contact and press the target lock binding to radar lock the target and enter into STT mode. Good, the contact is now locked in STT mode and on the HUD the target should now be highlighted within a circle. Press spacebar to continue. You can exit the STT mode and return to the skin radar mode using the return to search binding. Try it now, to release the current radar lock. Good, the radar has returned to scan mode. This completes the radar basics training. Press spacebar to complete the mission. You have successfully completed this radar basics training mission for the Su-35S. We have learned the following: radar modes, HUD radar symbology, MFD radar display, slewing the radar antenna, slewing the radar cursor designator, and locking and unlocking a radar contact. Press spacebar to exit the mission.